Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Devin and I read books, and today's video is going to be quite a bit different than what you've seen before. I do hope that you enjoy it. I had a lot of fun making it. This video is going to be me talking about Spiral, the second book in the Ring series. There are some slight technical issues. There's going to be some really fun elements. I've never done kind of a movie style vlog like this. I had a blast making it. I would appreciate your feedback. There are going to be some spoilers for Spiral kind of discussed in the sit down and talk segments. And my Rode mic died while I was shooting this, so I had to reshoot some of those segments with just my base camera mic. I cleaned the audio up as much as I could, but it's not going to be as clean as it has been in some of my past videos until I get a new microphone. Also, for some reason I keep calling it Spirals instead of Spiral, probably because of the art design there. Just ignore that. Anyways, sit down with a cup of coffee and enjoy the show. So for this first check-in and the second one, there are going to be some spoilers here. Slight spoilers for Ring. Also, it's a 30-year-old book, 30-year-old movie at this point almost, like the American version. So, come on, that moratorium is over, but we do got to talk about some of the stuff that happened in the first book, and that's because the first section of Spiral is called Dissecting, and it kind of picks up almost immediately. So in Ring, it focuses on this character, Asakawa, who is just a reporter who is connected to a death in the string of deaths involving the mystery tape, right? And he's trying to figure out kind of what's going on, solve it, save himself and his family from dying. Well, he has this friend from Ring, who's a terrible person, called Ryuji, who's just his friend from school, his professor of philosophy, garbage person, garbage human being. In the first part of Spiral, Ryuji ends up in Dr. Ando's dissecting table. He's essentially a coroner. He is a professor, but he moonlights as a coroner. Basically, he ends up there, and they find the signs of a heart attack and a tumor. And in Spiral, this is going to be a slight spoiler for Spiral, they find he has some sort of smallpox type infection in the back of his neck. So the first part of Spiral is really Ando kind of figuring out the infection itself, not so much the tape side of things, but kind of figuring out what happened to his friend, why his friend died, all that fun stuff. The tape does get introduced. We find out what happened to Asakawa and his family. I don't want to go too deep into that. And then Dr. Ando actually starts working with Ryuji's girlfriend, who is actually one of his students, to kind of figure out what happened there. And that's kind of it for the first section. It really focuses on Dr. Ando, his recent loss of losing his son, his mental state, and then trying to figure out what happened to Ryuji. He was a healthy man, he had a heart attack, and then he has this smallpox thing. And then they actually connect his death to all the others, and they find that all these other people that died under similar cause that we know are from the tape also had a smallpox-like infection. Again, in part one, we get Dr. Ando's perspective mostly until he meets Mai, who is Ryuji's girlfriend, and then we get a split perspective, which is very interesting. It didn't do that in the first book, but they are both kind of taking different paths to figure out what happened. So the tape is introduced because Ryuji was working on a article around like mass hysteria and the psychology of how that could have worked. And so Mai is actually trying to piece all of that together when she eventually finds a copy of the tape that Ryuji had made. So I finally sat down to work on this week's article. You know, I'm tired. I was up half the night. We've been just researching videos and topic ideas. You know, we've been on a kind of underground horror. You know, we covered the big VHS push of the 90s. We talked about Saturday matinees from the 50s. And while I was kind of researching this, I remembered something. I'm going to sit here.
But I remember this show that I used to watch back in the 90s, in the early aughts too, on, I think it was TNT, maybe it was TBS, I don't remember, but of this cowboy who would show these horror movies. And I always tried to bring it up to horror friends, and no one remembered anything. But I found someone who seems to remember this show. It's just this Substack article from Devin Does Horror. The Drive-In Never Dies. And like all the comments are the same. No one else seems to remember this. I remember this. Please reach out, shoot me an email. I have reached out to the author. I haven't heard anything yet. I will keep you guys updated on kind of where this goes, but I want to document all of this. I want to put it online on video somewhere so someone else that feels the way we feel, that seems to remember this even though the world doesn't, can see that it's proof that it existed.
Part 2 of Spirals is actually called Vanishing. Very early on, Dr. Ando is supposed to have a date with Mai, and she disappears. And he comes to find that no one has been able to get a hold of her for several weeks. While that is kind of going on, he and his fellow doctors are kind of just, CDCing the shit out of this, trying to figure out if this infection is spread, what's causing it, is there going to be a smallpox epidemic, and that's kind of it. It's a pretty short section. The next section goes much deeper into kind of how the curse and everything works on a scientific level. The big reveal in part 2 here is that when they ran these protein sequences on all these victims, on all these people that died after watching this tape, they found a specific string of proteins in Ryuji that they then decode.
I got it. Oh my god, I can't believe I got it. First of all, weird guy. Barely got out of the car and would not take his mask off. But, oh my god. Here we go. I'm gonna turn you around here. Fuck. We got it. It almost looks like AI art or something. I don't know. But we're gonna put this in. I think it's gonna be nostalgic seeing commercials that I haven't seen since the 2000s on here. I still can't believe no one else remembers this. Just me and this one person that I met online, actually. That's insane. I gotta do some cooking, and then I gotta plot out the article that is actually gonna go up this week, and we're gonna watch that tonight.
So part 3 is technically called Decoding. It actually does more than that. They've kind of started decoding. They kind of captured things in Vanishing, but decoding really breaks down the message that itself and what it could mean. And they start to realize that with each iteration of this tape, the virus is different. It evolves and it has mutated, right? That is the kind of big hint in section number 3. And we see that there was the initial tape that Sadako had created, Ryuji's copies, and then even Mai had made a copy, and that is the one that everyone else watched as far as the characters in Spirals are concerned. And from there they kind of realize that each one of these is different and may or may not have a different outcome and have different consequences for viewing compared to the previous tape. This is a point too where I am going to kind of talk about some other things around this book. So it is a translated book. If you have read translated books, you know what this feeling is like, where the translation is fine, but there are times where you read it and you're like, I'm not sure that was the best way to translate it. In translation there's always the true to definition form of translation and then true to meaning, and sometimes those are two diverging paths, and that definitely comes up some in Spirals, where I wish they had went with the true to meaning, not so much the definition, because it leaves some like clunky English. That's fine overall. I kind of expected some of that. It was like that in Ring as well. The characters overall are better, although Ando is kind of a creep. He is kind of an old perv, just a little bit when it comes to Mai. He's recently divorced, I get that. His son has died in the last year during a tragic accident. I get that. But there are some like strange paragraphs where he's just like obsessing over Mai, who was his friend's girlfriend, and then getting bummed out when he kind of missed her. Part 4 and 5 are where things really take off. I don't know. Overall, I wouldn't say there are any like completely terrible characters. There's no Ryujis in this. There's no one quite as bad as Ryuji in Ring in this book. Right, if you've ever watched any vlog about Ring, you know, Ryuji did some vile stuff in book 1 that he just casually talks about. There's no one that ostensibly evil here. That said, the next 2 sections are going to be a bit more spoilery, because that's where it really does kind of jump into this big subversion of what we have come to understand about Ring, even after breaking down some of the mutations and this idea that with every version of the tape, something is changing. You know, by the end of part 3, all the doctors are kind of on board that despite the fact that it shouldn't be possible, this tape is killing people. It is giving people this smallpox type virus.
That's him. That's the cowboy. Oh my god, I can't believe this. I haven't seen this in so long. It's real. It's real. I don't understand. I still don't understand. Everyone's gonna remember now, though, after I upload this.
So part 4 is called Evolving. And although we kind of crack that this virus evolves and changes every time a tape is copied, there are some very important discoveries surrounding that further. Biggest spoiler in part 4 here is going to be that Mai is found. She was discovered dead in a exhaust pipe at the top of the factories. Have you ever seen like movies where they have the big factories, those huge pipes on the top of the building? She was down inside of one of those. And had to have been there for a week or 2 before they found her. So Ando is just completely distraught and bummed, trying to figure out how that could have possibly happened. But meanwhile, they're studying this virus. They're trying to figure out what's going on with the virus and how it is changing amongst different people. They find that the virus in Mai was different than the one they had found in Ryuji. And I'm going to show some pictures here, but they essentially correlate to almost looking like sperm. And this is going to be relevant only if you read the Ring book. If you watch the movie, this was completely skipped. But one of the big things in Ring, the book here, is that Sadako created the virus because she was intersex, which this was the only reason they could have made her intersex. He just had to have a reason that she couldn't produce on her own. I'm guessing. To this day, no one knows why Koji Suzuki made Sadako intersex, but she always wanted kids. She couldn't get kids. She was assaulted by the doctor. She created the tape, and this is the Ring 1 theory. Things get a little different once we start talking about the end of Spiral, but she starts using the tape as a metaphor for a child. So that was the kind of twist reveal at the end of Ring 1, that if you had made copies, you would be safe. And what we're learning in Spiral is that those cells, those ring virus cells that look like sperm cells, are different in people who made a copy successfully and someone like Mai who did not. It's also right around this time that Ando starts casually running into another beautiful woman who reminds him a lot of Mai. And then the big reveal in this chapter is that they find during Mai's autopsy that she had to have recently given birth. Keep in mind, this entire book only takes place over a few weeks. Dr. Ando is like, no, that is not possible. I just saw her not long ago. There's no way she could have hidden a birth or even a pregnancy because she is so small. It would have been very apparent. But nonetheless, there's very clear evidence that she had given birth of some sort. And that leads us into the fifth and final part of Spiral's foreshadowing.
I don't even know how to describe what I just watched. It didn't make a ton of sense. It's more of a feeling. Where's my phone going? Hello? Who is this? Sorry, Miss Jones? Yeah, I just met something. No, he can't be. I just met with him. What? Hello? That was supposedly the mother of the guy I got the DVD from. She said he's been dead for 2 weeks.
So foreshadowing, part 5 here, is the big kind of twist, subversion of everything that you learn in book 1. So Dr. Ando does meet up with this other girl that he keeps seeing. They start hooking up. Eventually, he learns that he gets a fax from another client who was investigating Sadako, and he realizes that's not my sister, like she said. That is Sadako Yakamura herself. She is alive. She has come back. And we learned that she was actually birthed by Mai. And this is where things get completely off the rails. So basically you find out in Spirals that the tapes and the maturing ring virus were not just a way for Sadako to have this kind of metaphor of a child, but to literally be rebirthed back into the world. She used her powers when Mai was infected with the broken ring virus. She birthed out Mai. And then the other next big twist is that Ryuji is actually birthed back into the world through Sadako. So this very terrible guy who put all these messages out, solved the virus. It implies that he knew what the plan was from the beginning. At the end of Ring, he partnered with Sadako. He made the tapes, spread the virus for her, and then was rebirthed. And basically they ask Ando, hey, don't get in our way and we'll give you whatever you want. So now we have this guy who knows that humanity is about to be replaced, essentially killed and rebirthed because they have to watch the tape to be infected with this virus. You watch the tape, potentially die in 7 days. But in his grief of having lost his son, and even having lost Mai, he takes the deal. In the very final section of Spiral Epilogue, we learn that he has brought his son back. He is sitting on the beach with Ryuji, with his son who has been dead for over a year, at the same beach where he lost him the first time. That situation kind of goes differently. They talk about what will you do as the kind of world ends. And then the book ends with Ryuji trying to think how he's going to explain to his ex-wife that their son is still alive.
I don't believe this. It's just gone. It doesn't even come up anymore. I don't understand. What is that? What is that? What is that?
Hi, I'm Joe Bob Briggs.
Guys, that is it for this ring vlog. This is a whole different style of video that I kind of did, and that's why it kind of took forever to kind of plot and plan and get scheduled. I also had a lot of technical difficulties. My Rode mic is no longer working, so hopefully the audio isn't too terrible. I cleaned it up as much as I can. I'm probably just going to get an external mic. Hopefully the cinematic, the found footage elements were not too terrible. I really had a blast making it, and I really want to do more stuff like this in the future. I would appreciate if you watched it, made it through this whole thing, liking, leaving a comment, how you felt about everything, if you're going to read the Ring books. And then I'm going to have some smaller videos kind of in the pipeline here while I figure out my next big one. But as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.